We are shows what you know. We'll always watch TV. And if you think we can't, we'll watch more and you'll see. That's why the people of the web believe in Jim from Las Vegas and Jakob from Sweden.
Oh, welcome to Shows What You Know, your television podcast where we discuss any and all TV shows that we feel like. And one show I've been feeling like talking about for a long time, I just haven't been able to. It's House of Cards, so I'm glad to be here. My name is Jacob Burrows.
And I am Jim Scampoli, and oh, what a tangled web it is that we weave in our journey as we grasp for power, and we'll leave any people in our wake dead or whatever.
It's very similar to our grasping for the top of iTunes. We're still in the prequel territory.
Yes.
We're not even, what was he? We're not even whipped. Not even House Whip.
No, we're not even close to House Whip.
Yeah, we're still trucking along though. We're gonna get there to season 1. Netflix, when Netflix runs out of ideas, they're gonna make our show about the podcasts. It's kind of a Silicon Valley crossover. Anyway, we're here to discuss the first 5 episodes of House of Cards. I'm guessing we're gonna have a bit of a spoiler-free discussion, although our spoiler-free discussion will probably include stuff from the previous 4 seasons of House of Cards. So if you've never heard of the show, well, let's leave a message to those who have never heard of the show. What would you say, Jim?
House of Cards is the journey of this tangled web that we weave as we, continue our grasp for power. But yeah, it's about Frank Underwood and his wife, Claire Underwood, and just the behind the scenes soap opera-ishness of trying to be president, leader of the free world, if you will.
Indeed, I will. That sounds great. It is great though. I really enjoyed the first few seasons. That sounds like I don't enjoy it now, but I actually do. How about you?
It for sure has its moments. And I know that sounds negative, but it's like it's a very solid show. It definitely gets kind of wonky sometimes when you're like, all right. Like sometimes it's not afraid to be trashy. And I remember when it first came out, I didn't watch it for like the first 2 seasons, I think. Because it felt like, I don't know, people, I don't know how to say this, like, because it's a political show, but it kind of isn't, because it's just a soap opera in the end. But it felt like when it first came out, everyone was like, I don't watch TV. I watch History Channel and House of Cards. You know what I mean? But then when I realized it's just kind of a trashy show, I was like, hell yeah, let's do this.
Well, I think I heard, I probably heard about it from you, or some tweet along the lines of team, what was the guy's name? The security guard? We're on his team anyway.
Oh, yeah, I think, I forget his name too.
Yeah, so then I blazed through seasons, and I mean, maybe this was another tweet of yours, but if it was, you were right, saying that, some shows go to the extreme with what their whole concept is. And House of Cards, as you go through the seasons, it definitely gets more House of Cards-y. Like, they really butter up the House of Cardness on both sides of the bread to where it's, as you say, it gets soap opera-ish at times. But anyway, all that said, it's a show I come back to, and I've rewatched it at least once, maybe twice, and I don't do that with a lot of shows. And just because when I was at season 4, I was like, fuck yeah, I want to go back to the roots, back where it all started, and like go through like, haha, yes, gaining power. I don't know. I don't know if you're supposed to watch the show like that, or if I guess it's like the same way we watched Breaking Bad, like, fuck yeah, do all the bad stuff, ha ha ha. Like, we enjoy that, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, we did say this would have are we in spoilers at least for seasons 1 through 4 yet?
We are now.
Okay,
currently,
because like part of most of the fun of the show is Frank Underwood, rising to the top. So then when he kind of he became president, it was still interesting, but they have to keep figuring out ways of like throwing obstacles in his path or making it a little different, so it wasn't quite as interesting. Like the whole will they won't they of House of Cards is, Underwood and being the president, and then it was
Yeah.
kind of like then he was president, and then you're like, nice, he's gonna like nuke everyone, and he's gonna, he's gonna do all this crazy shit, and like of course they can't do that. And this season I feel is also like, I'm not sure if you're saying season 4 was kind of back to the roots. This
No.
season I feel like is kind of getting back to the roots in a way, with the whole manipulation and trying to get back into that power, but
Yeah.
maybe it's like I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, maybe it's too late for me.
Yeah.
He's been climbing to the top for a while, and I mean this election. He's been doing this election since 2 seasons. Yeah, I mean since end of season 2, he became president, right?
Yeah, end of season
so,
2 he became president.
So 3, he's president, and he's just trying to become the Democratic nominee for president, and then 4, he's president, and he's doing the whole election.
Yeah, the
And
campaign.
then 5, and we're halfway through season 5. The election is over, but we still don't know if he's president, which is impressive.
Yeah.
That was a spoiler. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Well, yeah, it's a broad spoiler, but yes. Watch that shit, dude. Keep an eye on that shit.
Yeah, it's a great show. I mean, it's like the first Netflix show too, which is kind of interesting. That this is where they figured out how to do TV shows, and I'm sure we all remember when they like, what? That's a streaming thing. They can't do TV. What's going on? And then clock sped forward to now. They've clambered their way to power. They're in control now. They're the Underwoods of streaming. So they got a new show every week, so it's kind of different.
Yeah, you're right. I remember when this show like first came out, and everyone was like, they just put all the episodes up at once. It's like, and everyone was like, thought that was so weird. I was like, okay, so on Friday, just all the episodes are going to be available. You just watch it all, and yeah, that's what you can do. And for whatever,
now we're surprised the other way.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, it was weird because I was looking forward to the show, but then in a weird way I wasn't. And not in the typical, like a lot of people are like, what, I need House of Cards, a good Donald Trump.
TV, I got the news.
And I mean, it was kind of like that, but not in that way. Not that I was like, Trump's a real Underwood or whatever. It was more just that because of like, how everyone's just constantly talking politics. It was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to watch a show about politics. But then I remembered, like, oh yeah, it's not really about politics.
Yeah, it's about backstabbing and manipulation and all that. And I mean, to be fair, a lot of the show is what would look boring on the outside, which is kind of a compliment. They have a lot of scenes where someone comes in, like, Doug Stamper comes in and he's trying to intimidate someone, and then it's like, oh, we. And the guy's a senator, and he's talking about, my grandpa used to own a peanut farm. And Doug Stamper's like, I'm allergic to peanuts. The president wants you to do this. And he's like, laughs like a peanut. And then, eat this peanut sandwich. I'm going to film it and send it to your daughter. It's all this weird, like, detail stuff. But they have this tense music under it. And I don't know. In a way, it all connects and works for me. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a guilty pleasure. Sometimes it's bordering on guilty pleasure. And sometimes it's like, wow, so great quality TV.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I know it sounds like we're kind of shitting on the show, but like, I mean, if you've watched the show, I feel like you know what we're talking about. It's a good show, but I mean, even like, if we're talking like earlier seasons, like in, what was it, season 2 when he kills the reporter, that's when you're kind of like, oh, that's what this show is. Because, I mean, even if like you're a conspiracy theorist and you think politicians are murderers or whatever, it just feels like, all right, we're going this route. He's gonna throw her in front of a train, and just know where to stand so the security cameras don't pick him up. Like I'm a villain.
Yeah, we are watching a villain at play, which is very enjoyable.
And and I will say, like the first 2 episodes of this season were kind of a chore for me to get through. I don't know if that's just the show, or like I was saying, I was just kind of like, politics. All I hear about is politics everywhere, and like it took me a little bit to get back into the groove of House of Cards. But basically, by the end of the second episode, I was like, hell yeah, let's do this shit. Let's do this,
Yeah.
Underwood.
Yeah. And it's they do a good job of, I mean, they invented this, so well, they didn't invent cliffhangers, but they invented putting everything up at once.
Mm.
And it would be easy to get tired after a few episodes. I mean, what you're describing is exactly what they're going for. When you've watched 2, it's like, I want more,
Yeah.
rather than you watch 3 and you're like, it's enough of that. Because they do a good job of hooking you into the next episode and the next one, and we're already like halfway through the season, so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And
It's-
it's
yeah.
always that since it doesn't have that weekly string you along like most like regular TV shows have, it's even and plus since usually this show they put up in like February or whatever, it's been even longer since I watched it, and I didn't go back and rewatch it, so it's also like getting back into what's going on. Is like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that guy, oh yeah, and that guy, wait, what did he do to that guy again? Oh yeah, oh that's right,
Yeah.
the guy died from the organ donor list or whatever. That's where that lady's from, like that type of shit.
Right. They do go back like several seasons as well. They're not afraid to like pull some character from season 1 or 2 and have them appear, and then and then they do have to explain it. They do that quite thoroughly as well. Like, remember that time when we were both doing this? They've worked that in. But anyway, yeah, it's good. Have you? No, this is a stupid question. You haven't watched the UK version, have you?
I have not.
I am the prince of being, oh, but have you seen it in the original? So I did buy it at like a yard sale for like no money. I got a box set with the UK version. This one's way better. I mean, the US version is way better. I never say that with this one for sure.
Oh wow.
Well, it's also because it's from like 89 or 91 or something like that. So it's kind of, wouldn't say dated, but it's gotten a certain feel to it. And I didn't read the book. I was going to. I read like the first page, but I read about what the story of the book was, and I think they did a good job of adapting that into a UK TV show, because I think the plot of that actually worked out better. Oh, we're in spoilers, so I can actually, I mean, for the first season, so I can actually say at the end of the first book, this is so weird. The guy meets with the reporter, like the reporter girl, at the top of like Big Ben. And then it's all like revealed what's going on. And then he kills himself. He jumps over and dies. I just read the Wikipedia, so I'm not giving it full, like the
Yeah.
full thing here. But in the TV show, they were like, well, that's stupid, and changed it so he pushes her instead, and then it's like, ha ha ha, I'm prime minister. So yeah, that was a good change. I think he did like write more books, and then like Sherlock Holmes did and pretended it never happened or something. I'm not
Yeah, I was gonna
100%.
say, how did they do more books if he, or did he
Yeah.
just live and he was just in the hospital for the next book?
Honestly, I don't. I'm speaking out of my art here,
Okay.
UK wise. So just wanted to mention it. It's an interesting tidbit. They did a good job doing a UK version, and then this version they definitely added, or well, they made it their own thing in a good way, I think. So good job.
Yeah, good job. Well, David Fincher was involved in the first season, wasn't he? He was.
Say so.
Yeah, he
Yep.
was. He was. I don't
Yep,
think he's
yep.
involved anymore, but he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm sure most people even listening to this are probably already finished this season. But hey,
Mhm.
you know, we're doing it piece by piece over here. You know, we're doing it old school.
That is the big negative thing that I think we mentioned on shows which you know before, that if you put out everything, how are you going to get that, episode to episode excitement of what's going to happen next? Well, you're going to get it here on shows which you know, because we only watched the first half. So
Yeah.
that's what we're going to get into now, I think. Spoilers.
Yeah, so spoilers for season 5, episodes 1 through 5.
That's right. And that's it.
Spoilers.
So yeah, we start out with Claire filming a commercial for the campaign, and then Frank has a very dramatic moment entering Congress.
Well, you know what was great about that is how they trick you into thinking Claire's talking to the camera like Frank does.
Yeah.
At least that's what I got from it. I thought that was kind of a nice moment. and I think they keep like teasing that. Or has she done that before? I'm trying to remember. Was there a moment where she's talked to us, the audience?
No, I feel like there may have been a coy look in the
Okay.
previous season.
Yeah.
But also, that's what we get here as well. Most obviously, at the end of episode 5, she's looking at the camera, and that's like the big hook, really,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because then I didn't quite. I was a bit tired watching that last episode because, as we said, you just get pulled in and watch more and more. But
Yeah.
essentially, the cliffhanger at the end of this first half is she's essentially president,
Yes.
I think. Because they vote on vice president first, and she gets it. She's acting president, so and then she looks at the camera because now she's taking over. So
Mm-hmm.
interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Yeah. So he marches into the congressional floor. He really wants to declare war on Aiko. That went away after a few episodes, didn't it? He refuses to leave, and that's a nice dramatic thing. And in this episode, we also have the funeral of the soldier who was killed. Again, I remember there was some sort of
Or the
terrorist
guy
thing.
who was he was beheaded.
Yeah,
he was
that's right.
beheaded by Aiko, and kind of like this is a good storyline. Like the whole, it is what happens. Politicians obviously use fear to control the populace or what have you, but this might have been why I was a little because it felt a little tired because Alex Jones
Because of reality.
And and I just kept thinking like you're gonna see these clips in like a conspiracy theory video on YouTube, you know what I mean? And not that I don't think that that's actually what happens. It's just that obviously this is a soap opera show, so everything's kind of to the umpteenth degree or whatever. So some of it was just kind of like, they're using fear. But although, to be fair, when the season 4 finale, that moment at the end, I did think was great. When everyone's like watching in horror at the guy being beheaded, and then the Underwoods are just kind of like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, that's
great
the
for
show
us.
kind of. The show kind of promised that's the direction they were going because they were losing, and then they were going to snatch hold of that fear. It is weird how things happen in a year or 2 years or 3 years that changes the way we look at a show. I mean, again, not to say that I just watch it on TV.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about The Handmaid's Tale, people were drawing comparison to modern day politics. Here it's actually, inevitable. In Handmaid's Tale,
sure.
It's kind of like, come on, you do that with everything. But here it's like, okay, yeah, you should. This makes sense. But then, as you say, you're fatigued and everything, but still can't help but root for the bad guy.
Yeah.
This does not bode well for society. Okay. Anyway, what's going on? There's a funeral, and there's a bit of drama going on there where, Frank gets accused by the daughter that he's the reason the dad's dead. Again, these are things that don't really, they're not big storyline things. They're just kind of setting the mood of what's going on in the country and in the Underwoods' heads and stuff like that. So the big thing that's going on is more about the search for this terrorist, and the episode concludes eventually with the reveal that Frank had the terrorist all along. Don't you worry. He had him good and locked up.
Yeah, and part of what's so great about this show, those hammy moments where Underwood's talking to us, but I love them so much. They're so great. When he just looks at the camera and he's like, "What, you think I didn't have this guy? Like, yeah, who do you think you're dealing with here? This is Frank Underwood, motherfucker." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, bitch, Frank Underwood, best dude." And I was that dumb douche when I went to vote this past election. I wore my Underwood 2016 shirt.
Oh God! Did you also look at a camera and
Hell yeah.
wink like you were in the office?
Yeah, no, I started talking too, like I was Frank Underwood. I was talking to no camera.
Sweet. You're like, I know you're filming me. They're filming everything. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much episode 1. There was some stuff going on with the mother of the terrorist and all that. Claire's showing her chops and so on. But moving on, episode 2. Claire finds out about Frank's old friend who's gone missing and is presumed dead.
Now, this I wasn't fully clear on, and I probably should have done my homework, but I assume they're referencing Frank's gay lover. Is that the guy who's gone missing?
I mean, those are dangerous words to be thrown around about a president.
Yeah.
But yes, the rafter. I believe he was running a rafting company now or something. They were at military school
'cause
together.
there was that episode where they kind of hung out like it was their, I forget if it was their school reunion or it was some sort of event like that.
It was a library that had the Underwood name on it. He paid for it or
Yes.
something
Yep.
like that.
hmm
That's the guy. He's presumed dead. But
Now,
Frank's busy trying to set up these voting centers. So
now, did
yeah.
he go missing was this referenced in the previous season?
No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
I know I sound like a noob here, but I mean, I definitely picked up what they were putting down. I probably should have looked into it before our discussion here, but I that's basically what I was assuming the whole time. And so yeah, there's like this hint of, Frank needs to mourn for his true love, but he can't take his eye off the ball right now.
Mm, yeah, and I mean, I got that they were close, but to me, what he's saying to Claire is totally true. That he never really loved anyone else than her.
Yeah.
That's my take on it
And,
anyway.
and that I mean, to the other degree, the strength of the show is the Frank and Claire relationship. Because then
Yeah.
season 4 was the one when it was all about like they're at odds with each other. Is Frank's greatest threat actually Claire because they're not
Mhm.
together and they're not a team? And
Yeah, and then they were welded together by the end, and now we're here.
yeah,
It's going in interesting directions. Yeah, so they're also hacking to destroy all the evidence of all the incredibly illegal stuff they did. So they got this hacker guy who's all season. He's like, I don't know, man. I can't do this anymore, man.
yeah, he's the worst guy. McCallan or whatever. And yeah, he was the guy. He had that dance scene. I think it was last season when he like puts his
yeah.
headphones on and he's just like dancing around shirtless. And
That
yeah,
was straight out of Mr. Robot.
and every time we see this guy this season, he's messing something up or he's like, "Oh my god, what am I doing? Uh-oh, this is bad news." And it's kind of like I guess I know he's kind of a few degrees separated directly from Underwood, but it
Yeah.
feels like such a sloppy thing. Like what we know about Frank Underwood and his precision and the stuff he does.
Mhm.
It felt like such a sloppy thing, but I guess that's more speaking to Stamper and Nev Campbell's
Leanne?
character. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's because he's really like, I mean, wasn't he like the cool collected guy when he came in? Like, it's all about data.
Yeah.
That's the way you win an election. I could hack everything for you, no problem. Just give me this USB thing or whatever. And now he's really freaking out
Yes.
about everything. To be fair, he's basically doing a terrorist attack in this episode, which is what we were kind of waiting for. The end of the last season was kind of promising that the Underwoods were gonna, 9/11 their country, something similar to some degree, and we get something similar to some degree here, where they go and attack a telecommunications center, which messes up all the phones, which is supposed to, help him accelerate the declaration of war and all that. But does it?
Yeah, I mean, it does a little of both because they even reference in one of I think in episode like 4 or 5, they even reference how Underwood's not as boisterous about the war thing anymore. But yeah, it helps on that, but it also helps like just convince these coward politicians that like real things are happening or whatever.
Mhm.
I
yeah,
guess
that's
that's
right.
kind of the main thing because it does like these experiences do play up later with the
voting
stuff
centers.
and the voting
Yeah.
centers. Yes, yeah, because we start getting security around the voting centers and then potentially shutting down voting centers. So it does work out to that respect.
Yeah. So and yeah, it does end, I think, with he's getting the military rolling in, and that's when Conway does a little outburst on TV about real war and real stuff like that, and Frank and Claire are kind of like having a drink and smiling like they do.
It-
Everything's going their way.
And then we get to see their pumpkins. Don't you
Oh,
remember the
yeah.
pumpkins?
I remember the pumpkins now.
I made
Yeah.
I made sure to specifically notate their pumpkins that they had.
Yeah, good. I'm sure I'm sure there'll be a tutorial up for that by Halloween. So yeah, then I mean that's episode 1 and 2. I didn't necessarily feel the same way that it was kind of a bore, but definitely 3 and 4 when the election is actually happening. those are the best episodes of this batch so far, in my opinion.
Yeah,
What do
I
you think?
agree.
Yeah.
Like that, it wasn't so much that by the end of episode 2, I was fully pulled in, but yeah, once things start kicking up in 3 and 4 is what really got me in.
Yeah, because we've been hearing about this election for I don't know years, literally years with House of Cards, and then start episode 3. It's the day before election, and it feels like the White Walkers are bringing down the wall or something. That it's finally happening. Conway's holding this 24-hour live stream call-in, which is kind of feels like what could. I mean, it's funny how a lot of this stuff is stuff that could definitely be happening, like a 24-hour live stream with a candidate.
Yeah,
That could happen.
it's weird because it feels like it could happen, but then even as a viewer, like not like a campaign manager or any type of expert in politics, you're like, what a horrible idea. What is this guy doing? Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna do this like the day before the election, and
I mean,
it's,
you know about live streams, Jim.
Yeah.
Sometimes things don't go the way you want. And
And
if you do it for 24 hours, God.
and you're seemingly not able to fully screen these calls and questions that are coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. And Frank is just manipulating and throwing in the questions that they want to spin things their way. Because there's something about the war, which we still don't know exactly what's going on, but it's something about him being a hero where he actually probably did something bad or
Yeah.
something or other like that that's not fully revealed. And he doesn't like that people bring it up because in the previous episode, his vice president, I think, is talking about how he's a hero or something. So they decide to play that up because it's playing well. And then he keeps getting these questions and it's stressing him out.
Yeah, this is where we really start to see Conway, like, and they start to really build on this in the episodes after that. Maybe things aren't so great with Conway either. Maybe he's not this golden boy we thought he was, because he's just geeking out all the time. He just can't control himself anymore.
Yeah, he's kind of, yeah, exactly. So we got a lot of campaigning going on in this episode, of course. Matthews comes back, who was the original vice president for, like, I don't know, not a long time in the first season.
Oh, yeah.
And they're trying to do deals with that. Yeah, what else is going on? I don't know.
Well, I mean, Frank's a cuck. We see what kind of a big cuckold. And I mean, I don't mean like the way other people
Just
say it. Like,
literally.
I mean, literally, he's a cuckold. Like, because Frank's just hanging out while Claire and I forgot to talk about this guy, the stupid writer. I hate this fucking character.
I mean, it's really indicative that we haven't brought it up at all. Maybe this appeals to other viewers, but I don't know. It's not that fun anymore. I don't like him anymore that much.
And especially, I mean, I never really liked him, and especially the way the actor plays him. He's such like a dull black hole, like of anything interesting whenever he's on screen, because he's always just kind of like morose, and I know that's kind of part of the character, but I've
heard you say this. You've said this before. He was in some other show, right? And you were talking about how you hated him on House of Cards.
Yeah, that's right. I think that was we talked about this. Which show was? Because he was on I know he was on Boardwalk Empire, and he was decent on that, but he was like completely different character. He wasn't this fucking dude that he's always playing on House of Cards. Play a different character already. Jesus. Let me look. I just want to look him up real quick, see if there's something he was in recently that we watched.
Yeah, no problem. So,
the Night of. Yeah, he was on the Night of. That's right.
Oh, he's like the trainer. That's right. Boring character there
Yeah.
too. But I mean, I didn't even think that much about it, but just hearing you say it, yeah, he does say everything like, "What do you think? Eternity can't be found in a cupboard."
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. And then I think it's in episode 5 where he just kind of wanders into the tour and just starts being himself and weirding everyone out.
The tour.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I mean, that would be episode 6. I'll have to cut that out.
Okay.
I'll have to cut that out.
No problem. So we got one of the finest bits of this episode. Frank calls into the 24-hour live stream, which is, I know these are like fictional characters. It doesn't matter if they're being like, technically they're like, I don't know. I'm so pulled into it that I'm like imagining all the people watching and like, oh my God, head to head, president to president. And it was cool to have them talk there. And like you said about live streams, that was, first I was like, Frank, what are you doing? You're like tired and drunk or something. But
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he's been tenderized for, I guess, 24 hours by all these people calling in and complaining. So, of course, it's a great opportunity to get the upper hand.
Yes, yeah, it works really well. And then I think that's where they kind of have, don't they have that moment where they're like, this is our house. Or, oh, wait, well, that's at the end. Because first they
Yeah.
do the whole election thing, and then they realize like it's not going to go quite as planned, so they need to go to like plan B or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
What they find out is about the numbers that people aren't voting, essentially, which I can, relate to. There, people aren't voting, and that's a big issue for them. If even in his home state they can't get
Yes.
people to go out and
Which
vote, that's going to be an issue.
which was really weird because it was kind of their plan was to do that. But
Yeah,
then
it's mhm.
I think even the writers of the show, they were kind of like, this is a little gray area. We'll just kind of, if the characters are confident in it, the audience will just go with it, because it wasn't fully clear, because the plan kind of was to build this terror and have even like soldiers at the voting booths where, yeah, that would kind of scare people away. But I guess they assumed for whatever reason it was going to mostly scare away Republicans.
Yeah. I'm not 100% on the plan. As often
Yeah.
as with this show, you're kind of piecing it together after they've done it. Or like in a different show, they might do that super intentionally, but here it feels like you're piecing it together without, like, you're supposed to get what's going on, but
hmm
you're kind of putting it together after the fact. And yeah, anyway, it was too few people. I think they didn't have voting centers everywhere, or am I crazy? I'm not sure.
Well, because it was the whole idea was that they were supposed to be doing kind of voter suppression, which was going
Yeah.
to somehow work in their favor. But, it just didn't. So they're like, oh, no, they're not showing up. Like, we're not, this is bad for us.
Mhm.
And so then it, quickly kicks into plan B, where Frank is going to like pretend that he concedes the election, but they're also
Right.
working in the background. They're working, what was it, Ohio and like Tennessee or whatever, like really amping up the scare. And oh yeah, they bring out the Secretary of State, gave him that little morsel of information, like this guy with ICO ties, or the name. There's a man that potentially has ties to ICO. Maybe we could pick him up and try to make it seem like things are scary and there's going to be an attack. Uh,
Yeah.
and it all just comes down to like, this is our house. We ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're the
And
fucking
then
Underwoods.
Yeah, and then for the credits, it starts playing "Whose
Yeah.
House." That was kind of tacky.
Frank's house.
Yeah. So yeah, they watch this old black and white movie as well and have a lot of dramatic conversations about never talk to me about losing and all that. But
Mm.
essentially, what you're saying is the plot, and that moves us into episode 4 as well, where the main part of the election is going on. Where yeah, it's not 100% clear either on what went down in Tennessee. Is it? Was there like? I mean, obviously they made a lot of pressure happen there, and then there was some sort of fight or riot or mini riots. We're not 100%, are we?
Yeah, it just kind of cuts around to that, like, I guess what the idea that we're getting from it is that the Underwoods have done such a good job of kind of amping up this,
Hmm.
this anxiety, this fear, but then also people are out and people are already kind of clashing because you're going to vote. So, this guy's not voting for my guy. And, it's just a nice recipe for chaos.
Yeah, I guess
And,
it was like a bomb detecting dog is barking, and then
oh,
that
that's
makes
right.
everyone panic. But they're not
Yes.
trained to bark when they find a bomb. They're trained to sit down. So anyway, yeah, as you say, they've spun the panic enough where it gets out of hand and gets crazy. I mean, I was imagining we would see Doug Stamper like sneak in there with a knife and a trench coat and stab someone. I don't know. In this season, every episode, every scene Doug Stamper's in, I expect him to shoot someone.
Yeah.
Just-
It's great because
intense.
Doug Stamper's great, and like we got to see his journey last season, like getting back in good with Frank. But it's great that he's always like one moment away from completely just cracking, and but he's still holding it together, and he's still like the man. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's sleeping with this woman whose husband he kind of essentially killed by
Oh yeah,
taking his.
That's what that was what something I blanked on completely.
Yes.
No, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I had to look it up to refresh because I was like, oh, who is this lady again? And yeah, he manipulated the like the Department of Health or whatever to basically bump Frank up on the organ donor lists, and
Oh, yeah.
her husband died, so now he's just having sex with her. And
Oh, Doug. I mean, not to say he's not interesting, he is, but the stuff we remember is going to be, Frank doing cool shit.
Mhm.
It's not going to be Doug. Well, if it is Doug, it's going to be him sitting at a bar again with like a shot of alcohol he's not going to drink. And we know he's not going to drink it, but he's,
Yeah.
he's right there on the
Well,
edge every single day.
and in comparison to the writer, like Doug is kind of morose and serious and whatever, but like he's killing it. Like
Yeah.
I'm not concerned when he's on screen. He's super interesting and he's really nailing this character. And I don't know if they're going for like a version of that with the writer, but it's just not working. But yeah, but Doug also has basically the press secretary could be out to get him in a way because he's like working his little information deals on the side to keep his spot potentially, even if the Underwoods go out,
Yeah.
because we still got the news reporters on the case trying to piece together what happened and how high this conspiracy does go.
Mhm.
So yeah, and it just feels like poor Doug Stamper is going to be that weak, even though he's such a strong, like loyal guy. We see how everything from the past seasons and even the stuff we didn't see that we just assumed Doug Stamper had to do.
Yeah.
It's all been weighing on him, and eventually he's going to crack.
And we even get like, I don't know, Frank does this a few times. He has more pressure on him. Like he's done it a few times through the show, but now probably the worst time he does it to turn to
Yeah.
Doug and like, is there a question about your
Oh
Lewis?
yeah.
Says
Oh,
that
man.
over nothing when Doug has murdered people for him. He's given up he says his whole professional life, but that's his whole life. Everything. He did the organ donor thing. He like, I don't know, he almost got brain damage, had to learn to walk.
Yeah, that's right.
And Frank's like, you didn't give me Ohio or whatever. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Clearly you're plotting against me. And Doug is like, for real? Are you for serious right now? And I did like that Frank, like, I was out of line. Like, that's
Yeah.
one of the few times he's backed out. He's like, oh, wait, that's stupid.
One thing I did like is because that's when we're starting to see these hints, because even Stamper's like, they should have folded. I don't understand why they're not. So we're getting this hint that season 1 Frank Underwood that was like swinging dick that could do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
People are starting to realize like, hey, maybe we don't have to listen to Frank Underwood. And there's also like the whole seeds where everyone's kind of going towards Claire, and they're even saying like, look, we kind of like you, but we don't like Frank. And of course they're building something with, the Underwoods are going to kind of have almost like a civil war if Frank doesn't just, step in line with Claire. She's the new hotness.
Yeah. Give it 4 years. In a worst case scenario, well, we know she's vice president now, so even better. But give it 4 years, she is going to be president no matter what, probably. And they did do that whole thing of like Underwood, and they said all the years. And I don't know how Frank's planning on that. I mean, I guess he'll improvise, but
Oh yeah,
that's a lot of years for you, Frank. You're pretty old. What do you think the plan is, Jim?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's gonna do. They do that thing for athletes. They spin their blood. They don't do it in the U.S., but you go like to your neck of the woods. I think they take your blood out and they like spin it around in a thing, and then they put it back in, and it like heals you. So I think he's gonna go blood spinning.
Sounds legit. Sounds like good season 7 stuff. Yeah, so basically there's voter suppression going on, and we think sort of suspected, okay, that's how they're gonna win, but actually Frank calls and concedes. So it's like, what? But they're all smiling. What's going on? And then it's a hung election because states refuse to verify the vote because of all the messed up shit going on. So the election is void.
Yeah,
Pretty much, right? That's
yes.
what happens?
Yeah, and it's one thing that does feel realistic, and what I like is Frank just focuses on like 1 or 2 states,
Yeah.
because he knows if just one or two do it, then a bunch of other people are just going to fall in line and start doing shit as well. So I kind of like that aspect of it. And yeah, I think this is the one that ends with One Nation under wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I like that. What is? I mean, you are a political scholar, so I will put this question to you. Is there a reason they don't continue like the vote for those states the next day, or alternatively, just do a fucking revote? You know, like happened in the UK a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I think they're building to that, and I mean, obviously, I don't know how much they're really pulling from actual laws, but
yeah,
I think there is some truth. I don't think it would be something where they could just do it immediately like that, because I'm sure people would argue, well, now when people vote in those states, they've been swayed by what they saw of the coverage, or now what if people have already voted but now they want to change their vote and it's this big fucking thing.
yeah. I guess they'd
um
have to redo the vote for everyone. But I mean, for example, after the last big vote here in my country, Sweden,
yeah.
there wasn't enough of a majority to like get the budget through. And
Yeah.
what they did is announce a re-election, and then that was kind of an Underwoodish move because it eventually led to them being able to do a deal where they didn't have to do a re-election. But they announced it. They had like fucking ballots printing and
Hmm.
everything. And I think that's happening in Finland currently. I know the U.S. is bigger, but I
Yeah,
mean,
I was
come
gonna
on.
say, well, yeah, I was gonna say you're dealing with a lot bigger country, plus with so many states, and like
The
it's
fiddly rules and bits, because you have a lot of fiddly rules as far as I
yeah,
understand it.
and a lot of that is just to protect smaller states, because you want to make sure, and I think that comes up a bit on the show, is Texas is gonna come in and bully like South Dakota around or whatever. But I don't know how much they pull from the actual Constitution, but it does feel like this is the type of thing they would have, where it'd be like, well, if the election doesn't go through from the standard voting, then we turn to like the House and the Senate. And then if that doesn't work, then maybe potentially we turn back to a revote or whatever. I'm sure it's this
Okay.
convoluted fucking
Well,
nonsense.
what about the flippism? That sounds great. You know, they flip a coin.
Oh yeah, that what a great fucking like monologue though.
Yeah, that was a great monologue. I mean, I assume that's real, because that would be too crazy to put in and just pretend it's real. It's more of a fun tidbit to include. But yeah, he has a great monologue to open up episode 5, and in episode 5, we're kind of ramping down the action. We're in a way we're back to the roots because Frank is really he's explaining why he's now back to doing what he did in season 1, being a whip, trying to get the votes from all the states.
Yeah.
And the whole episode's about that.
Well, and they introduce like a potential outcome, which I wanted so bad, but that's probably why they introduce it, because they're not going to do it. I just want it to be the split ticket where
Hmm.
Claire's the vice president under Conway, and then it's just the Underwoods like doing fucking sneaky shit to make him look bad and eventually like kill him or whatever.
Yeah.
And then somehow Claire's president, and then like Frank's
Underwood's
vice president.
president. Yeah. I mean, that's gotta.
Because like
That sounds such like jumping the shark territory, but here it's like, yeah, that would be cool. That could happen.
I totally just want that to be next season. I just want
Yeah.
it because then Frank's back in kind of a whip capacity, and he's just him and Claire are just doing like crazy shit behind the scenes, just trying to make this fucking PTSD guy geek out on TV or whatever.
They've done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even though they've done it before, that for this show at least, for the quality they do, it wouldn't feel like treading the water. It would.
Mm.
I mean, they were kind of redoing something from before, but yeah, the way you describe it, it sounds engaging. Now, I guess the showrunner is off after this season. Is that right?
Oh,
You
I
know?
didn't know that.
I'm not 100%, but it does seem like, yeah, I think they're gonna get someone else to do it. But I'm again talking out my ass now. U.S. version is ass rather than arse, so I don't really know. So I'm a bit kind of concerned, and I don't know where the show is gonna go. But hey, where we are right now, I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, this was
Looking it
for
up.
the well, this was for the 5th season. the one we're watching now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was previously Bo Willimon, but then
Mm-hmm.
senior writers Frank Puglisi and Melissa James Gibson are showrunners for this season. I don't know how that works
Oh,
for season 6 or not.
okay. Well, then I guess I like those writers too. I was like, what if it loses its character? It's already there, Jacob. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, we're doing more voting stuff, and Conway's doing the potential treatment, VR treatment, continuing his millennial streak. But that would be really bad if that got out. Hey, remember what happened to the last president who went to therapy? Don't go to therapy if you're a president. It's not great.
Yeah, well, and I didn't even really think of it until you were just talking about it. I guess it's kind of interesting the comparison of Conway going through like a VR battlefield and Frank with his like model scale battlefield.
Yeah.
So I guess there's something there, huh? That can't be on accident.
Sometimes it's on accident, I feel. But they do bring back the historical reenactment guy, which was kind of interesting. That's kind of classic. Classic House of Cards. Bring in a character, and then you have a talk that's kind of deep, and but kind of not. And then I'm sure it relates to what's going on and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone talks in riddles. It's great.
Yeah, because I vaguely, like, the way the dialogue came through, I started vaguely remembering, like, oh, yeah, okay, this guy. All right, that's who this guy is. I remember this scene when they were talking about the Underwoods or whatever, the historical Underwoods.
Yeah.
But then all I'm thinking is, like, does Frank want to have sex with this guy? Like,
Well,
is Frank-
I'm sure that's part of it.
is Frank picking up this man? Oh, Meacham. That was the security guy, wasn't it? I just
Meacham.
remembered it.
Yeah, Team Meacham.
Because I'm like, he doesn't have because Meacham's gone and his other boyfriend got lost at sea, so he needs a new gentleman caller.
Jeez. Well, Claire's got one. He shouldn't be,
Yeah.
especially if he's going to be vice president potentially. Yeah, so that's kind of the end we already brought up where the vote goes through for the vice president, but the presidential one is suspended because it's too close, something like that. So,
Yeah, it ends up being like a draw. Well, and we also do see Claire, like, she's kind of getting jealous. Like, she's worried about author guy, and he just made his driver drive him to New York, and he's with another chick, and she's watching like the live stream of it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, all good stuff.
And it was great though when Claire, it was the vice president she was talking to, right? Because he has his dead wife.
Yeah.
And she's
Yeah,
like,
that was
you and
great.
your dumb dead wife. You're weak. You've always been weak. And you walk around with a stupid look on your face because you and your dumb dead wife. And it was like, and then he hits her with the old, like, hey, your initials are missing the N and the T, you fucking cunt. Like, get out of my face.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's I feel almost like she was trying to prove to him or even herself when he says, "Come on, you're nothing like Frank." And then now she's stepping up to the plate. She's kind of got to
Yeah.
prove
Sure.
that she is, even if it's to him who's going nowhere. And I'm sure she enjoyed it too, letting loose,
Yeah.
saying, "You know what? I have to be all prim and proper. Go screw your dead wife. You never did anything."
And maybe it's just like, maybe, I'm kind of dumb. But basically, that scene was to tell us that he was going to vote for her. But to me, it's like, I would never vote for her now. Like, why did he
Yeah.
vote for her? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I guess that's the point, like you're saying, is that she's showing that she's got the same pull as Frank Underwood, and she's got that power over people. But yeah, it was weirdly kind of unclear. Because besides she kind of walks and like looks to the camera, and then you're like, okay, I guess she won. Because
Yeah.
the whole thing was they were going to do a filibuster and delay the vote. But then
That's
she
right.
talked about the guy's dead dumb wife, and apparently they voted. But I don't know. I know it's probably better the way they did it because it's a little bit more subtle. But it was also kind of weird because I'm like, who the fuck would vote for her now? Why would you vote
Yeah.
for her?
Yeah, that I mean, it didn't completely add up, but at the end, I was too like confused about what was going on. So I was like, "Oh, so she won? Okay."
Yeah.
Not going to question it too much. Now we've been saying or I've been saying we're halfway through the season, but I suppose I just found out there's 13 episodes, so we're
Yes,
almost halfway through.
we're a little
Uh,
under halfway through.
all right, all right. Well, I certainly look forward to getting into the details of the rest of the episodes, and you, dear listener, can provide your commentary as well by emailing us at showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com or leaving it below in a comment.
Yes, please. And I assume we're going to see more of this Black Reporter and what's going on with the news and all that. Because a lot of these things seem like they're just planting weird stuff that's going to come back later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, I look forward to that. And, yeah, we'll be back to finish out the season.
Yeah, the news guy, the press guy, who I've completely lost interest in at this point. He was kind of fun for a while, but I mean, he's just hanging out and being sad about them losing. He's not being very proactive, just
Mhm.
talking to reporters and all that. But anyway, you can all send us your opinions on that. Please do also check out jimandthem.com for all of Jim's podcast and video goodness, and awesomepedia.org, and also my YouTube and Jim's YouTube. There's so many things to check out, but most importantly, check out House of Cards. I really recommend it.
Yes.